So a lot of you know I like to run. That got taken away from me for a few months. But who cares? Life will not always be 70 and sunny. When the obstacle gets in front of you, don't let it stop you. Don't let it deter you. Navigate around that motherfucker.
Even if you're tired, you can't show nobody that you're tired. The second you show people that you're tired, you're finished. They're gonna walk all over you. Even when you're tired, like this, head up, chest up, you're good. You don't feel shit. Oh, shit, the can.
When people talk about self-improvement, they often describe it as a form of salvation. Wake up early, train harder, read more, and fix your habits. The promise is quite simple. If you work on yourself long enough, you will eventually become someone you can respect, someone you can finally love. Don't get me wrong, this works for many people. Well, at least at first. But for others, something breaks along the way. Instead of confidence, they become far more insecure, and instead of discipline, they develop a cold robotic-like attitude. If we want to get technical about it, the human brain was never designed for endless optimization. The dopamine system, which people often misunderstand as a reward chemical, does not actually reward achievements, but rather rewards pursuits. Dopamine spikes are mainly seen at moments of anticipation. The moment a goal is reached, dopamine levels drop, and the brain immediately searches for the next problem to solve. This mechanism once helped humans survive by pushing them to keep seeking resources and safety. In modern self-improvement culture, it's created a major psychological void. Progress feels good briefly, then goes hollow. Each improvement raises the baseline, so the human mind starts to only accept itself when it is improving. We can clearly see that in people who lived inside the self-improvement bubble for years. Many people who have gone through this phase mention that they often find themselves searching for the next missing piece. Over time, once they reach a new baseline, they end up finding themselves back where they started, and what remains is nothing but emptiness. What made it worse was how deeply the self-improvement industry reinforced the cycle. Endless videos promising instant mastery and perfection, each one suggesting that fulfillment is just one method away. This is a classic case of variable reward conditioning. The same mechanism that keeps people scrolling on social media or pulling a slot machine lever applies here. Occasionally, a video genuinely resonates, creating a strong dopamine response, but most of the other times, it does not. That inconsistency makes the brain crave more. So people keep consuming it, believing that the next insight will be the one that changes everything. As this behavior repeats, you start building more tolerance. What once felt motivating starts to feel normal. Your mind adapts and starts requiring more information in order to feel stimulated. And I know some of you watching will ask, what is wrong with that? Isn't the obsession with improving what makes greatness? The problem here is that obsession and autonomous motivation are not the same psychological state. Autonomous motivation is driven by internal choice, often allowing people to tolerate effort in the long run. Because effort is no longer used to prove worth, but to express oneself. Obsession, on the other hand, is driven by avoidance motivation, which means forcing action through fear of feeling unworthy. Your brain is basically trying to find a reason so it can run away from discomfort and shame. These two states activate very different neural systems. When improvement is healthy, dopamine works alongside serotonin and oxytocin, creating stability, satisfaction, and connection. On the other hand, when the improvement is obsessive, serotonin drops, the system that normally regulates mood and self-worth. This is why obsessive self-improvers often feel insecure and mentally restless even when they are doing everything right. Research on performance psychology shows that excessive self-monitoring degrades performance over time. When the prefrontal cortex is overactivated, constantly over-optimizing, it starts to interfere with creativity and social intuition, even adding extreme pressure to your day-to-day decision-making. At some point, your system will have to break. All it takes is a small injury or illness or even a missed routine to start destroying everything you built. For someone whose identity has been built around constant improvement, being stagnant is not normal, not at all. In fact, it is extremely dangerous to the mind. Without daily progress, the mind has nothing to anchor self-worth to. At this level, doing less means suffering more. So, how can we improve then? The answer starts by changing what improvement is anchored to. Most people think the danger comes from working too hard or wanting too much. The plot twist here is that it does not. The real danger comes from trying to improve for the sake of identity instead of function. Let me explain. Healthy improvement begins when the brain is not operating under threats. When behavior is driven by fear of something, the mind becomes hyper self-aware. Learning still happens, but it never reaches its optimal level. Remember, performance depends on pressure, and pressure always has a breaking point. Greatness that lasts is built in a different state. Research on motivation shows that when effort is internally endorsed, the person experiences choice rather than feeling threatened. The key shift here is moving from self-surveillance to task engagement. Excessive self-monitoring keeps the prefrontal cortex overactive. This can be pretty useful during learning phases, but it gets destructive once it becomes permanent. The difference between high performers who sustain success and those who burn out is that they are able to turn off self-monitoring once action begins. And this is what we call flow states.
Jordan to the circle, puts the shot in the air, good! The game's over, and the Bulls have won.
Assistència de Xavi, més capradeta per a Messi, Messi, immens Messi, encara 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 Messi, gol, 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 gol.
Have you ever felt unstoppable? Like you were on top of the world without even trying? Moments where everything clicks, your flawless actions seem to unfold on their own? Yeah, that is flow states, where action happens without internal resistance. You're not judging yourself or wondering how you look from the outside. You're essentially just locked in with the task. Flow is associated with the temporary quieting of self-referential thoughts. The inner self that constantly asks, am I doing this right or is this really enough, simply gets kicked out. This is why people in flow often report working longer than intended without feeling drained. In simpler terms, energy is only spent solving the problem itself rather than some outside thoughts. Unlike obsessive improvement, which constantly uses self-worth as fuel, flow generates its own momentum. By developing these habits, over time, this changes how improvement is perceived. Progress essentially becomes a byproduct rather than a reason to prove self-worth. And this is where the video comes full circle. The problem was never self-improvement. The problem was turning improvement into a condition for being okay with yourself. When effort is used to escape shame and guilt, it eventually destroys its own vessel. Don't get me wrong, autonomous motivation and flow don't promise perfection, and they don't save you from efforts. What they offer instead is something far more valuable, a way to improve without losing yourself in the process.